Oh, yeah.
We'll grant him that. And we'll welcome him back with open arms when he does come back. In the meantime, plenty to get to. You were in Charlotte last weekend. You actually took in the racing of the Coca-Cola 600 in person.
Yep. Talk about
I was about to say.
long, but it was a good race. Really good race.
There will be commentary.
Quite a bit. Quite a bit.
Did not take in last Saturday's action. Not live.
No, we took it easy Saturday because we knew Sunday was going to be a really long day.
Oh, yeah.
So just...
you spent a lot of it out there at the track?
Yeah, we got to the track, I think it was about 12:15, 12:30 Eastern time. And got out there and kind of just hung out, walked around, checked out how they had redid Speed Street.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of having it in downtown Charlotte, they had at the track. How they redid that was they did a really good job of how they set that up.
Okay.
Kind of just chilled, took it easy, and then when the gates opened up, I think it was 3 p.m. when the gates opened up. And then we went on in and got set down and kind of just chilled and watched all the pre-race festivities and all that stuff.
We see it we see it when it comes to the Indy 500. We've seen it when it comes to the Coca-Cola 600 on television.
Yep.
The difference between television and in person.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Really, the way they do the tributes for the Memorial Day holiday, signifying what it means. Mm-hmm. It's an eye opener when you're there with it live, versus seeing it live on TV, because it just something about it hits different.
Sure.
It hits completely different, and then I give kudos to the guy doing the C-17 flyover of the track. He's pretty good with a big plane. He got awfully low, right at the hard day.
Yeah, I believe.
But it was really good.
Cool. We'll go on through more as we get throughout the process of the show, but let's go ahead and get into the beginnings of this, because we do want to start off with the recap of last week, and it begins last Saturday. Xfinity Series getting into action at their home, Charlotte Motor Speedway. Junior Motorsports been strong all season. They obviously feeling right at home as the race moved on. Specifically, 2 team drivers, Josh Berry, Justin Allgaier, were making the rest of the field look like, well, taxi cabs sitting in line at an airport. Lap 185 of 200, however, Justin Allgaier had to pit because he had tagged the wall. He needed to bring the car down to the attention of his pit crew. To NASCAR's credit, as opposed to what we've seen in the Cup Series,
right,
they did not call a premature yellow.
It was surprising, but
why not in this case versus doing so in other cases, I don't know, but they didn't. Again, to NASCAR's credit, that, by the way, did leave Barry all alone in his own world, not his own zip code, not his own area code. He was in his own planet, to the point where when the checkers were shown, he had built up a gap over second place Ty Gibbs of more than 18 seconds. We just don't see that in NASCAR. We've talked about it in Formula One kind of often. Every once in a while, we'll talk about it in IndyCar, but I can't remember the last time we talked about a gap that big in NASCAR. It's been a while.
Quite a really long time. And then with how the broadcast went Saturday, and with Joey Logano really harping on, and this is the best Xfinity race I've ever seen, and people's going, the dude won by 18 seconds. How?
I guess it's in a lot of ways it's how you look at it, because understandable, somebody leading by 18 seconds, on the surface you think, well, that makes for kind of boring racing. But if you look at what it was that he had to do, what Josh Berry had to do to be able to build up an 18-second lead, that's pretty impressive.
It's just considerably impressive, but in a way, little did we know, he was actually kind of foreshadowing.
Well, there you go. Sam Mayer of Junior Motorsports, 3rd, trailed by another team driver, Noah Gragson, in 4th. Daniel Hemrick, then Allgaier, 7th. And then you got Sheldon Creed, Trevor Bayne, Mayat Snyder. They fill out the top 10. Ty Gibbs still got 3 wins on the year. He still leads the way amongst the playoff contenders with wins. Noah Gragson, Josh Berry now have 2 wins each. Single-time winners include A.J. Allmendinger, Justin Allgaier, Brandon Jones, and Austin Hill. All of them are locked into the playoffs. That takes up 7 of the 12 spots. The other 5 that are in on points at this time are Sam Mayer, Riley Earps, Daniel Emmerich, Landon Castle, and Ryan Sieg. First 4 on the outside looking in, Anthony Alfredo, who's 46 points behind. Then Jeb Burton, Sheldon Creed, and Brett Moffitt. There's still room to move here, but we're starting to kind of shake things out a little bit.
Yeah, I think we said it a few weeks ago, it would take a few weeks and you'd really really start seeing it shake out,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's really starting to level itself down.
Yep.
As the saying goes, pretenders are separating themselves from contenders.
It's going to take a massive problem for one of the five. Again, they're Mayer, Herbst, Hemrick, Castle, and Sieg. Something's really going to have to go wrong amongst those five for the others to get in without a win.
Yeah.
That's the key, without a win.
Yeah.
Sunday morning gives us the greatest day in racing, as we like to call it. Formula One kicked things off with the Monaco Grand Prix, an alternately wet and dry race where showers were kind of coming and going, was keeping teams guessing about what type of tire to use. Getting it right, Red Bull. After seeing the race start and getting only one lap in before they came down pit road for a red flag situation, then again, alternating rain and clear skies kind of put the race, unfortunately for them, into a time limit situation. So instead of making the more than 70 laps as scheduled, the timer ran out at only 64 laps. The driver in first, Red Bull's Sergio Perez. Yeah, that's right, not Max Verstappen. Perez had gotten medium compound tires put on his car when Mick Schumacher spectacularly crashed. More on that in just a bit.
Yeah.
He was able to hold off the field over the final 34 laps. He claims the win by a little bit more than a second over the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Remember, he put on medium compound tires. That comes into play. Because second place, Carlos Sainz, Ferrari, they put on hard compound tires. And of course, the harder compound, the longer it's going to last. About 34 laps in, about 30 laps is what we have generally seen to be about the limit of the medium compound tires.
Right.
So the fact that he was able to baby them the final 4 laps, to the credit of Sergio Perez.
Yeah. That was good on his part, because it took some pretty elbows up driving to get that done, because of how the top 4, you could throw a blanket over the top 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a really good race between those 4.
Teammate Max Verstappen, the other Red Bull, was third, and the other Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, in fourth. The rest of your top 10 and fifth, George Russell, again outperforming Lewis Hamilton. Lando Norris sixth, Fernando Alonso. There's Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel make up your top 10. Updated driver standings. Verstappen's out front, 125 to 116 over Leclerc. Sergio Perez is up to third. He's got 110. George Russell up there now with 84. 83 for Carlos Sainz. Interesting to watch that battle there. Lewis Hamilton's got 50. 33 points behind of fifth for Lewis Hamilton.
I didn't see at this point of the year, 7 races in, that George Russell would outscore Hamilton by 34 points so far.
To me, it's just as eye-popping to think that he's sitting in sixth.
Yeah. I agree. It's equally as eye-popping.
Lando Norris has 48 points, Valtteri Bottas 40, 30 for Esteban Ocon, and clinging to that last spot in the top 10, Kevin Magnussen of Haas F1, still holding on to that 15. He's been sitting there for what, 4 races now, I think?
At least, yeah. But if you look at that, one bobble in a race, within the next 1 or 2, he could go from 6 to 8.
Oh, sure. Easily. Red Bull expands their Constructors' Cup lead over Ferrari, now 235 to 199 points. Mercedes is third, 134. Think about that for a moment. 59 for McLaren. Then you got Alfa Romeo has 41, 40 for Alpine, 17 for AlphaTauri. Haas F1 soldiers on with Kevin Magnussen's 15 accrued points. Aston Martin sits at 7, 3 for Williams. They are in 10th and in last place at this time. But again, as we've noted, unlike last year, really unlike the last few years, all 10 teams have scored points, and they've done so relatively early on in the season. We have seen in the past where, and I'll use Williams because they're the bottom feeder again right now, and they've been kind of the bottom feeder team other than Haas F1 last year for the last, I don't know, half a decade, give or take.
Yeah.
And we were constantly going into the latter part of the season. I'm talking about we were getting into late September, October, and we were wondering, would Williams at least score a championship point?
Yeah.
You know, we're barely into the summertime at this point in time, and all 10 teams have scored points. So, congratulations to them.
Yeah.
Next up, your second crown jewel race of the day, the famous Indy 500, ended somewhat sadly under caution when on the final lap, Sage Karam crashed in turn 2. It ended what had been a great late race battle between Pato O'Ward and Marcus Ericsson. That comes to an end. Ericsson happens to be sitting out front, so he ends up winning. Ericsson's win, by the way, makes him only the second driver from Sweden, following Kenny Brack in 1999, who knew he was from Sweden, to win the famous race, locking in team owner Chip Ganassi's 6th Indy 500 win overall. Pato O'Ward had to settle for second, trailed by Tony Kanaan. We'll get back to him in IndyCar news. Felix Rosenqvist, Alexander Rossi. More on him in a bit. Connor Daly, Elio Castroneves. Yeah, missed out on that 5th opportunity, but I don't think he's done yet.
No.
Simon Pagenaud, Alex Palou, Santino Ferrucci making up the top 10. So your new driver points after the Indy 500, because you get double points in the Indy 500. Ericsson vaults to the top. 226 points now, and he leads the driver points. 213 for Pato O'Ward in second. Alex Palou with 212, 202 for Will Power. Then you got a pretty good gap back to Joseph Newgarden. He's got 174. Scott Dixon looked like he was going to be the class of the field, but he admitted they kind of screwed up on pit road. 166. Scott McLaughlin, 162. 157 for Simon Pagenaud. Felix Rosenqvist, 154. And Colton Herta's 10th in points with 142. The rookie points lead is held by Christian Lundgaard, 104. David Malukas, 90. Kyle Kirkwood, 77. Callum Eilert, 71. Devlin DiFrancesco, 62. Even in a part-time role, Tatiana Calderon kind of holding her own, 41 points, only running the road and street courses, kind of like last year when Jimmy Johnson did it. So we'll have to see what Tatiana can do now that they're going to be back, and she'll be back in the car this weekend.
Yeah.
And that brings us to NASCAR's longest race of the season, which actually turned into the longest race in NASCAR history. The day and the night race just missed the all-time record for the race with cautions at 22. They logged 18 last Sunday evening. Cautions actually kind of spoiled what could have been a heck of a story for Kyle Larson. Starting a repaired car in the back of the field, had to overcome that, and also had to overcome 3 pit road penalties to find himself out front as the laps dropped to under 10 to go. The caution number 17 came out when Chase Briscoe, who actually was faster than Larson at the time, overdrove a corner, spun out, effectively ended his night. The 18th caution came out on the first try at a green-white checkered finish, extending the race yet again. But this one also collected Larson, so it jumbles up the running order, hits Joe Gibbs Racing drivers Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch against each other. They restarted side by side, remained that way until the white flag lap when Hamlin finally got the edge that he needed. He rolls on to get his first win in the famed Coca-Cola 600. It ended on lap 413. Remember, that's 13 laps past the scheduled finish, which marks 619 and a half miles total. Again, NASCAR's longest ever race run by miles.
It should have, yeah.
Not by laps.
By miles, yeah.
Because remember, you get things like the Bristol 500. That's running 500 laps at Bristol, but Bristol's a half-mile track.
Right. 500 laps, 250 miles.
So mileage-wise, 619 and a half, longest NASCAR race ever run.
Right. But from the caution standpoint, should have only been, by my count, should have only been 9. Counting the stage break caution. Should have only been 9. Because, yet again, whoever's got the little button up top has got a hair trigger thumb.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Unfortunately.
I don't know whether it's Jusan Hamilton or Tim Burton.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Either one of them, they've got a hair trigger thumb.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because there were several people that was in the stands around me and around us
Saying the same thing?
saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we throwing caution, car, steel, move?
I know.
No debris. Now I get it when you had the likes of Noah Gregson, Corey LaJoy, Chase Elliott when they spun off the turn 4 respectively in those 3 separate instances.
Sure.
I get that.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand it.
Well, all right. It goes back to what we were talking about in the All-Star races. You get the equivalent to a Texas stripe, which is what we called it last week when it came to the All-Star race. If you get the equivalent of a Charlotte stripe, and all you're doing is maybe taking a couple of paint chips off the wall, who cares?
Yeah, we'll clean up one. We need to go clean the paint chips up off turn 1.
Who cares?
Yeah,
is a paint chip going to cut a tire? No. Okay? I mean, if there's debris on the track, that's one thing. If you bang something off of the car, fine. What have we talked about when it comes to this car? You said this. I was not able to accompany you at Talladega, but you took the time, you went down into the garage area, and you got a nice, good, up-close look at these cars. These cars are built differently than the last generation of cars.
They are tanks, kids. They are tanks.
Things don't just go falling off of this car when you scrape a wall.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's absolutely insane.
I agree.
I don't get it.
I don't either. I'm still trying to figure it out, but hopefully they'll get it figured out before too much longer. As far as the win, it's Hamlin's second win of the season. His first, like we mentioned, in the Coca-Cola 600. He now has wins in 3 of the Cup Series Crown Jewel events, multiple wins in both the Daytona 500 and Southern 500, marking 48 total wins in his career, one behind Tony Stewart. Kyle Busch was second. He wasn't happy. Get over it. We can kind of get back to that. I was listening. It's pre-preview week, just to let you know, on Sirius XM Satellite Radio. So this morning, just to kind of play around with it, and I like Pat Patterson. I've kind of come to know him somewhat informally over the last few years. And they got to talking about Kyle Busch, how he is not a fan of this car. Well, he's not a fan of this car because he's not winning or dominating.
There's several that are not fans of the car.
Okay. But what he wants to do is he wants to take the entire underside off of the car and see if that makes any bit of a difference.
Probably would.
It might, but here's the thing. Just because you're not dominating doesn't mean the car's not good or the racing's not good. It just means that everyone's kind of leveled out at this point.
It's funny you actually say that because I was on I had to work some in Georgia this week at my day job.
Yes.
You know what that is, a day job.
Yeah, we don't just get to do this for a living. Not yet. We're hoping.
Hopefully. MRN. I was listening to Corey LaJoy's podcast, Stacking Penny.
Yeah.
I would listen to that one. I listened to that one day, and then the next day I listened to the Dale Jr. download episode with Jeremy Mayfield, which you need to listen to.
Yeah,
It
you recommend it.
really, really good. But Corey LaJoy said that it's being murmured already for the next round of short track races coming up.
Yeah.
Talking about taking that rear diffuser off.
Okay. And that might not be the worst thing in the world.
No.
You know, the diffuser, I think, works for the bigger tracks. 1.5 miles and bigger, maybe. It could be argued. I don't see where it would benefit at a short track.
Sure. Or even a road course.
Yeah. I don't see where it would benefit there.
I mean, I don't know. That's what he's murmuring.
You know, again, we're in the early stages of this car. And this is really Daytona 500, or you want to go back to it, the Busch Clash was the first time we saw as many cars on the track as we did.
Yep.
You know, we'd see 4 or 5, maybe 6 on the track at any given one time, but this was the first time that we've seen 20 plus tracks was at the Busch Clash, Busch Light Clash.
Yep.
They're still learning about this car just like all the drivers and all the teams are. So there you go. So Kyle Busch, as we mentioned, second. That brings us to third place. Kevin Harvick, Chase Briscoe did recover, got a 4th place finish. Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, Kyle Larson, 9th, 10th place, Alex Bowman. The leaders in points, Ross Chastain and William Byron, each with 2 wins. They're now joined by Denny Hamlin. They are also in that order in seed as far as if the playoffs were to start today. Single-time winners, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, and Kurt Busch are all locked into the playoffs. The few that are in on points at this time, and I do mention that as very, very pointedly, few.
Yeah, few.
Because we continue to rack up new winners, it seems like all the time. Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell, Kevin Harvick, and Tyler Reddick. That's right, only 5 are in on points. That means 11 of 16 spots are taken up by winners. On the outside looking in, Eric Almirola. He came out of the gates looking just hot and on fire. He has significantly cooled off as we've gone through spring. He's 8 points on the outside looking in. Austin Dillon, Eric Jones, and Daniel Suarez. Suarez 49 points outside of the top 16. This weekend's racing actually began before we got on the air. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll let you know what happened over in Jakarta, Indonesia, as Formula E got the racing weekend started. We'll be right back. You're listening to CRN.
Don't touch that dial.
Is in all intents and purposes summertime here in the southeastern part of the country. And if you're right here in Alabama, that could mean, well, you get real hot days and then pop-up thunderstorms in the afternoon.
And when it rains, all heck breaks loose.
Uh-huh. And if you think that's the case when it comes to the sky, think about what it's doing to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's alternately drying out and it's alternately getting soaked. And what might that be doing to the foundation of your home? Well, it could be wreaking havoc with it. So don't take chances. Find out. Make sure. Just make sure, if you're anywhere in the state of Alabama, that the foundation of your home is in as good a shape as it can possibly be by calling our good friend Michael Hart at Ox Foundation Solutions or sending him an email and having him come out and take a look at it. You can call him 205-362-6419 or you can email him Mike at oxfoundations.com. And as we've said, it doesn't matter where in the state of Alabama you are. Anywhere in the state, he can come to your house, and he will. He'll come for a no cost and no obligation to you written foundation assessment. That means he comes out at the day and time that you set up with him to come on out, and he'll go through the house thoroughly, and he'll write down any problems that he may see. If he sees no problems, he'll write it down. He'll hand that to you and say, hey, thanks for it. Thanks for, using us. And if you need anything in the future, give me a call back, which, let's face it, that kind of truth, you probably are gonna.
No doubt.
But Michael's also honest enough to the point where if there is something wrong, you'll have it in writing. He'll sit down with you and explain what it is just to make sure that you know exactly what it is that's going on with the foundation of your house. And then he'll explain to you what it would cost to fix it. You've got it on paper as well, but he'll take the time to explain the whole thing out to you. And then you get to throw out, hey, I heard about this on the Championship Racing Network. Here's my promo code. It's WEST. 15% off of the total that he just quoted you. Can't beat it. 205-362-6419 or Mike at oxfoundations.com. Set it up. Don't forget that promo code WEST just in case you might need some work. Tell them you heard about it right here on CRN. As we said, the racing weekend has already gotten underway.
It has.
Just across the international date line, if you were to head to the west and go to Indonesia, Jakarta. First time for Formula E in Jakarta.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little course that they built right there. 18 turns, 1.47 mile long. It's a road course, but they built it really within inside the city. It aired on the CBS Sports Network at 4 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Central Time this morning. Needless to say, you probably weren't up.
Nope.
And we probably weren't up.
Nope.
I know I wasn't. I can't speak for Matt.
I was not either.
But we do know what happened. Matt, take it away.
Running through the finishing order of the Jakarta Prix from one to last. Let's just call it that.
Because it's what, 22 starters?
22
right?
starters. Your winner was Mitch Evans.
Yeah, okay, nice run for Jaguar.
Jean-Eric Verne second, Eduardo Mortara third, Antonio Felix da Costa fourth, Stoffel Van Dorn fifth, Jake Dennis sixth, Lucas DeGrassi seventh, Pascal Verlaine eighth.
We'll talk about him in a minute in Formula E news.
Sam Bird ninth, Sebastian Buemi 10th. Rounding out the rest of the field, Andre Lauderer 11th, Oliver Turvey 12th, Oliver Askew 13th, Max Gunther 14th, Alex Sims 15th, Nick Cassidy 16th, Robin Frein 17th, Dan Ticktum 18th, Sergio Sette Camara 19th, and not finishing the race would be Antonio Giovinazzi, Nick DeVries, and Oliver Rowland.
Yeah. Nick DeVries, by the way, busy guy. He actually did participate in Formula One practice session number 1. Now, when we tell you where they are, that means he had a long flight to go over to catch the Formula E race. I imagine, and I don't know all the details. I mean, he could have been caught up in a wreck, truth be told.
Yeah.
But they were talking about heat being a situation you got to remember where, and look up Indonesia on a map. It's fairly close to the equator.
Yep.
I can imagine that a lot of things kind of took their toll on him.
Oh, I'm sure.
After he, and I will say this, he did impress Mercedes officials during that practice session. To the point where people in the uppity up of the Mercedes group said, yeah, this guy kind of probably deserves to get a Formula One shot if there was a seat available. He's that good.
Raise your eyebrow.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yep.
Later today, racing continues. Camping World Truck Series getting in the Toyota 200 at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway near St. Louis. Not a factor. Heat.
Surprising.
Hearing this morning, it's a nice balmy 60 degrees in the St. Louis metropolitan area.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio have the coverage beginning 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Central. Xfinity Series next up to take center stage. They're out on the left coast. I use that term very pointedly. They're running the Pacific Automation 147 at Portland International Raceway Road Course. First time for the Xfinity Series ever at that course. 12 turns, 1.967 miles long. Fox Sports 1 MRN Radio will have the coverage there, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central Time, or after the truck race, whichever comes first. Indycar back in action on Sunday. They have got the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix. This used to be a dual race. In other words, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. It's only a Sunday race this year. Cable Network USA has the coverage, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. This is a 2.35 mile long, 13-turn Belle Isle road course. This is a highly thought of road course. But remember, the city of Detroit, and I think it's beginning next year, they want it back downtown. And I think it moves back downtown. Is it next year or 2024?
Next year.
I thought it was next year.
And I just saw a layout of the track map.
For next year?
Yes.
Okay.
What are they doing? This is a miniature version of Baku.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's going to be that means it's going to be pretty tight in some areas.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really, really stinking tight.
I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that.
Let me see. Let me scroll back to it right here. The proposed layout is really has similarities to the old F1 layout back in the late 80s.
Sure. They're still kind of using the GM Heritage Center as a centerpiece.
Yep.
In the middle with some of the waterfront, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes me literally just go, what are they doing? Pit lane is not on the front stretch. It's in between turns 8 and 9.
This tells me they were more worried about the location of where the track was going to be as to how is the course going to be laid out.
Pretty much. Well,
we'll see. Time will tell. Cup Series going to get things running after that. Fox Sports 1 MRN Radio. The series is going to be, for the Cup Series, the very first time at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. I got to admit, I saw it. I really paid close attention to the facilities yesterday during practice. I'm impressed. It's looking place.
They turned it around really quick.
Yeah, they've done a nice job with that place. It's going to be the race itself, the Enjoy Illinois 300 presented by Ticketmaster, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time, so really not all that long after IndyCar gets underway. And then on a delayed basis, Fox Sports 1 will show the New England Nationals for the NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series. They'll begin coverage of the finals at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time, or following Cup Series coverage, whichever comes first. Formula One is the only series that's in season that we cover that is actually off this weekend. We did mention again that the practice session that Nick DeVries ran for Mercedes, it wasn't officially what you would call an FP1, but they are getting ready to deal with next weekend's race, and they put Nick DeVries in a car. They said they were quite impressed.
Yeah.
But that being said, let's keep with Formula One. Talk about Monaco last weekend. the first of the three big races of Sunday. Saw one of the biggest crashes of the season, with all due respect to the barrel rolling of Chris Buescher in the Coca-Cola 600, which we'll talk about later. Mick Schumacher, Haas F1 driver, lap 27 of the Monaco Grand Prix. Young Schumacher trailing Gilles Granu in the swimming pool section of the tight track. When he lost control, he said he was only off by like a millimeter going into the corner. How he can tell that close, I don't know.
Good question. Yeah.
But either way, very, very tight part of the track. I mean, I've quote-unquote raced it in virtual terms in video games. I know what he's talking about. He's right. It's a very tight section of that track.
Yeah.
And when he lost control, he spun his car into the barriers. Now, we've seen this before, but we haven't seen the reaction this way. That hit squarely on the side of the F1 racer, and the impact of that split the car in half just behind the driver cockpit. Schumacher admitted to being a little shaken by the wreck, but he was able to get himself out of the remains of the car, got checked out as okay by the medical staff there at the track, and then talked to the media. He called the crash, quote, very annoying, unquote. He added this, quote, I'm feeling all right. Obviously, it's very annoying. I think in terms of pace, we were definitely there. It's just a matter of keeping it on the track, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. The pace felt strong, and I felt like we were able to attack and push. We just ended up being a little too wide, maybe a matter of, millimeters, 10 centimeters at the end, and that was enough to lose grip, and all the grip that you thought you had, and unfortunately the result is as it happened. Another bad day for Haas F1. We just mentioned the Schumacher wreck. Schumacher's wreck came shortly after Kevin Magnussen had to retire his racer. He had an engine issue with the power unit. Could be the engine, could have been the hybrid system. We don't know. They weren't specifying it.
Yeah.
Team principal Gunther Steiner was steaming mad after the day. He was asked about it after the race, and when he'd had a small chance to somewhat calm down. Steiner said, quote, with Mick, we obviously saw what happened. It's not very satisfactory having a big crash again. Remember, he had a problem earlier on in this year. We need to see how we move forward from here. Steiner referring to the crash that Schumacher suffered in Saudi Arabia, shearing that car in half and caused him to miss the race because that happened in practice.
Uh-huh.
On the flip side of Haas F1 is Red Bull, who not only finished first and third, but saw their secondary driver, if you will. And I'm not a big fan of using these terms.
Yeah.
But based upon what we saw in, I think it was the last race, where
Spain.
Perez was leading. Spain. And what did they do? They gave the order to Sergio Perez to move aside and let Max Verstappen take the lead. That tells me he's your primary driver. He's your number one.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not. I mean, and I've said it before explicitly on these airwaves of this show. Team orders has no place in motorsports.
No, I agree.
No place whatsoever.
I mean, you want to win a title, but at the same point in time, if I'm the team manager and it's you and our absent producer, John, that are out there, and John's the defending champion of the particular series that we're running in, and he's running second, just because he's running second and you're in the lead, why should I take the win or the potential win away from you? If John can pass you legitimately on the track without you two wrecking, I'm all right with that.
Yep.
But if you can continue to hold John off and you can win and John finishes second, I'm good with that too. You want to know why? Because my team, with my two drivers, still finished first and second. I'll let you two battle it out for the title as long as you don't wreck my cars.
It's a team win. Lay the driver win aside. Look for the team win. The way I look at it.
Yeah, which they did in this particular case, thankfully. Perez, with his win, puts himself into solid title contention, thankfully. Red Bull decided to reward him as well. So he gets the win, and he gets a 2-year contract extension. Keeps him with the team through at least the 2024 season. Joined Red Bull just last year, has a win and 4 other top 3 or podium finishes, claimed 4th in the final 2021 standings. He's added 3 second-place finishes to his credit this year, although one of them should have been a win, again the aforementioned Spanish Grand Prix. He currently sits only 15 points outside of the lead, which is held by Max Verstappen after Monaco. Red Bull's team boss, Christian Horner, referred to Perez by his nickname, said since joining Red Bull Racing, Checo has done a fantastic job. Time and again, he has proved himself not only to be a magnificent team player, another reference to the Spanish Grand Prix, but as his level of comfort has grown, he's become a real force to be reckoned with at the sharp end of the grid. This year, he has taken another step, and the gap to a world championship. Max is close to world champion Max is close significantly, evidenced by a superb pole position in Jeddah earlier this year and by his wonderful win in Monaco just last weekend. So again, congratulations to Sergio Perez, otherwise known as Checo, now locked in at Red Bull for at least the next couple of seasons. That should settle things down a little bit and just allow him to concentrate on what he needs to do, which is to make sure that he is not overshadowed by Max Verstappen.
For sure. I mean, in hindsight being 2020 here, he's got the capability and the potential to overshadow Verstappen himself.
I would agree with that.
In my opinion.
I would agree with that.
I mean, because Red Bull is clearly the class of the field right now.
Oh, yeah.
In F1.
Yeah. Ferrari came out like a house on fire. They've cooled off. Mercedes is, for all intents and purposes, nowhere to be found.
Mercedes is still in the cooler on ice.
Yeah. I mean, they're nowhere to be found. Even though they're third in points, technically, they're having to grab binoculars to be able to see second and first. And if they keep this up, it's going to need a telescope. And by the end of the year, it's going to need to be the Hubble. If they keep this up.
For sure.
So right now, it does seem to be between Red Bull and Ferrari. And again, Red Bull's doing fine. They are picking things up. Ferrari, on the other hand, like you mentioned, they've cooled off. They've got to find themselves again. Mm-hmm. And I think to a certain extent, what they had at the beginning of the year that allowed them to jump out to a big Constructors' Cup lead,
right,
and allowed Charles Leclerc to jump out to what had been a fairly decent championship driver points lead, mm-hmm, they're starting to feel pressure, and they're pushing.
A lot.
And when you push like this, you're putting even more pressure on yourself.
Yeah, when you overthink a strategy situation, or you over push the car, you mess up.
Yeah. Calm down, go back to doing what you had been doing the first few races of the season, and let's turn around and make this a battle instead of watching Red Bull run away with it all.
Absolutely.
When we come back, F1 looking at changing up their roster of races a little bit. Now, we know that next year they want to try and get in maybe 24 races. Maybe. Where all are they going to be? We'll talk about that when we come back. We're not that far into the show right here on CRN.
on the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, let's continue talking about this. We mentioned it just before the break in that Formula One, they've been expanding out their schedule length, I guess is the best way to put it here. They're talking about maybe running as many as 24 races as soon as next season. And they're also changing up the race roster a little bit. Among the thoughts is a return to South Africa. That's a place they have run before, but they haven't been in South Africa since 1993 when they raced on the Kyalami circuit. That is in South Africa. Negotiations are said to be serious with an eye towards possibly joining the schedule for 2023. And again, while next year is indeed possible, most people feel like it more likely will join in 2024 because you got to remember this. Next year, strangely, the French Grand Prix is slated to end. We'll get to that in a second.
That's odd.
Qatar and Las Vegas are set to join next year. We knew that already. Mm-hmm. So we've got Qatar, Vegas coming on. And unless something can be worked out with France, they're gone. And I don't know why, because I've watched the French Grand Prix and I've seen Circuit Paul Ricard. I think it's a good-looking track. I think the racing is decent there.
It's kind of the same deal with Hockenheim.
Yeah. I mean, to me, Germany and France should both be on the F1 calendar, just like Britain and Spain always need to be.
Yeah, those are the ones that you would call the legacy races.
Yeah, and Italy.
Italy, you would say, to me, if Formula One had a crown jewel like Cup.
Other than Monaco.
Other than Monaco. Outside of that, it would have to be, for me, France.
Okay.
Great Britain, Silverstone, which is still there.
Yeah.
Hockenheim and Italy.
Yeah, Monza.
Monza
specifically.
Monza specifically, not Imola or son of a gun. What's that?
There's Imola, and then there's the one that's
Mugello.
Yes, the one that
basically
is Ferrari's home track.
Yeah, I was thinking Ferrari, and I'm like Ferrari, Mugello.
Yeah. So, and don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with either one of those tracks. Imola and Mugello are both very scenic and nice.
Oh, yeah.
But Monza's the historic one. It's kind of like running at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. You run it at Brands Hatch, which is a fantastic track in and of itself, but you're used to seeing the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. You're used to seeing the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. It's just the way it is.
Just whatever you do, F1, don't take away Zandvoort, because I'm growing to love Zandvoort because I'm running Zandvoort a lot on a little thing called iRacing, and I'm getting really good at Zandvoort.
Yeah, I like it's a beautiful track, too. On the front of the French Grand Prix, Formula One officials are stating that they want to work with officials in France and at Circuit Paul Ricard. They're thinking about maybe doing an alternate year schedule with another race. This would freak me out. Potentially the Belgium Grand Prix, whose contract at Spa-Francorchamps is also in their final year this year. Of course, we got to deal with the Chinese Grand Prix. Chinese Grand Prix hasn't run since the COVID outbreak of 2020. That actually may be to the benefit of Belgium, considering the fact that China still can't seem to figure out how to get their situation under control, despite the fact that we've already figured out things like masks didn't work.
Ding.
That's a political side of things, and that's for another show. Also, as with the teams, we noted this on the show last week, complaining about the price of freight, shipping cars and equipment all around the world, not to mention all the personnel to get there. All this does have Formula One looking at combining certain races for next year based upon geography. What did we say at the beginning of the year?
Is somebody from F1 listening to us? We said this very same thing.
At least someone from Formula One might be, because NASCAR still hasn't.
Exactly.
I mean, what did we say about the schedule? When we broke down the Formula One schedule, we went, wow, look at kind of where all you're going. When we turned around and we broke down the NASCAR schedule and just took the first, 4 or 5 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
And we went Busch Light Clash in Los Angeles to Daytona, back out to California.
And Arizona.
And then Arizona and Vegas. And then you came all the way over here to Atlanta?
Yes.
And then went to
Bristol.
And, I mean, we were all over the place. It was somebody get somebody in the scheduling department a map. Well, in this case, Formula One, we kind of looked at it and went, somebody at Formula One needs a globe. Because Miami is all by itself. And then Canada is all by itself. Which means treks across the pond from Europe to North America and then back. Why not spend the time here and make good use of your time?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that it's a little bit cheaper to move cars and equipment with cargo 747s than it is to put it on a cargo ship, and it taking a month to get from Europe over to, say, Miami.
And here's the thing. I bet you there'd be a couple of teams that have transporters that would be more than willing to help you out instead of flying them. We'll just let you use our 18-wheelers, and we'll haul them from Miami to Canada for you. And that's just one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Miami race would be paired with Montreal, the Canadian Grand Prix. U.S. Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas in Texas likely will be combined, as it regularly is, with the Mexican Grand Prix, but you'd also include the race in Las Vegas as well. We'll have to see how it works.
I put Brazil in there, too.
Sure. You know?
Makes sense.
Texas, Vegas, Mexico, Brazil.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. Or maybe Vegas, Texas, Mexico, Brazil. I don't care. Vegas, Texas, Vegas, doesn't matter. Do those two first, head south to Mexico City, then go further south to Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yep. I mean, you're welcome, F1.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
We're here to help. The Codemasters, an EA Sports collaborative Formula One video game set to come out July 1st. It is called F122. It's available for pre-order right now. Among some new things for the season, a new handling dynamic for the cars. Exactly what that means, whether it's better or worse, I don't know. I haven't played it. They have the inclusion of the feeder series Formula 2. That's a first. You got new practice programs. The F1 sprint races are included. Got new formation lap procedures that you actually take part in, and safety car periods as well. And there's also adaptive AI. And you can set that level. I've kind of looked through some of the promotional videos of this. If you are a newbie, like I would be, I've never played a Formula One video game yet. Thinking about it.
It's been a long time since I've driven one.
I might set the AI a little low just to kind of get used to the game and then up the AI as I go along. But the AI adapts anyway. So in other words, you're not going to go out and pull off a 20-second lead and have the computer cars just accept it. They're going to make you work for it.
So you can drive F1 cars like that on iRacing.
Sure.
And
you should be able to.
You shouldn't. You don't have to touch nothing because the cars and the cars change with the track so much. No matter if you're driving an F1, anything, if you're driving a Mazda MX-5 all the way up to a Mercedes W12.
Sure.
Anything in between, it's going to adapt.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Competition meets your talent level. Again, that's the adaptive AI. Updates to tracks that debuted for just this year. So Abu Dhabi's got the look as it took for 2022, as does Australia. Also, the new Miami track is included in there as well. Pit stops have become a little bit more realistic. In other words, mistakes can be made. Maybe you have a problem on the right front. Just saying. And there's a career mode. In career mode, you can have what they call a Formula One life mode or F1 life mode, allow you to customize your avatar and go have a personal life. I don't know how detailed that personal life is, but I'll leave that to your imagination.
Yeah.
It's available for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XJS, and Xbox One, and for PCs. We mentioned Pascal Wehrlein and Formula E, Porsche Formula E team of Pascal Wehrlein suffering a 5 grid place penalty before the race began because they had to repair a part of their power unit. Remember, this is an all-electric thing. It's something called the DC-DC converter. No, not the AC-DC converter, the DC-DC converter. Under supervision of an FIA tech delegate, Porsche officials opened that part up, which meant that they had to break the official seal to do so. The rules in Formula E state that breaking the seal is the equivalent of changing the unit out. Well, they've only allowed to change the unit out twice in any season, and they'd already used their allotted 2 for the season already, so breaking the unit became the third time. They suffer a 5 grid spot penalty, and as you mentioned, he did not finish the race.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pascal. Then you get to Mahindra Racing. Now, Mahindra Racing has already confirmed they are set to return next year to Formula E competition. That's when the third-generation car debuts. This should be a faster car. Thing is, Mahindra, at this time, has no power unit supplier for next year. They don't build their own. They've always been a customer team. They have confirmed they've begun preliminary talks with, this is their word, not mine, several other teams regarding becoming a customer of theirs. One of them is the team that we mentioned earlier on this year, which wants to come back next year, but they're taking this year off. That's ABT. After the Audi team dropped out of Formula E at the end of this last year, they've been kind of sitting on the sidelines. They said that they do want to return as a power unit supplier. Mahindra connection could be exactly what they are seeking. Time will tell as to whether that becomes the connection that they're all looking for. Who knows? That brings us to Indianapolis, the IndyCar series. Second crown jewel race of last Sunday. A lot of things to break down there, so I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll detail all of that, and that'll lead us into getting ready to talk about the third crown jewel race of last weekend, the Coca-Cola 600. And we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that rollover crash that we talked about when it came to Chris Buescher.
Yep.
Among other things. Hour one's down, hour two ready to begin right after this here on CRN. Hour number 2 getting underway right here. We appreciate you joining us. I'm Steve West along with Matt Nicholson.
Yep.
Producer John Myers out this week, so little things get missed, like me putting the flagship board into live. Oops. Thank you to our mentor and the guy who has helped us here, Grady, for pointing that out to me.
Absolutely.
And Joseph for also pointing it out to me. Hey, you guys missed something? Yep, sure did. Sorry. Apologize. You can also catch us, by the way, on our page on YouTube. Go to YouTube, look up CRN Live. You can check us there as well. If you really want to look at faces that are, at least in my case, I'm not going to speak for Matt, but mine's perfectly made for radio.
Same here.
Let's continue talking about racing. Let's go to Indianapolis. We've talked about the Monaco Grand Prix, the first crown jewel race of the Memorial Day weekend. The second one to get underway was the Indy 500, and for most of the day, really, it looked like it was going to be Scott Dixon's day. If he had won, it would have been his second Indy 500 win. But on lap 175 of 200, he was nailed for speeding on pit road. Yes, they have that in IndyCar too. So having to serve that penalty, the car that was arguably the class of the field, leading for a great portion of the day, ends up finishing 21st. Scott Dixon was only left to say in the media room after, quote, "It's heartbreaking to be honest. I just messed up." Yeah.
That's a simple way of saying it.
But this, to me, is the epitome of what Scott Dixon is.
Yeah.
He's not going to lay the blame on anybody else. He's not going to shove it off to something or someone. He's going to say, I messed up. It's on me. Done. Well done. I appreciate it. As noted, the win went to Marcus Ericsson. He becomes, as noted, only the second driver from Sweden, following Kenny Brack back in 1999, to claim an Indy 500 win. In the process, claims a record-shattering monetary figure. The overall purse for this year's race was unprecedented. It was just over $16 million. As for the winner, Ericsson, he takes home $3.1 million. That's the largest winning prize ever for the Indy 500. Prior biggest purse, arguably the world's most famous race, $14.4 million total, set back in 2008. Since that time, Indy 500, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the series, they kind of fell on some hard times under the longtime owners, the Holman George family. Part of the resurgence in the series, and quite frankly, the resurgence in the amount of money handed out to all the field and the winner, can be traced back to the purchase in the very early parts, like January or early February of 2020, of both the series and Indianapolis Motor Speedway by Roger Penske. But the problem being that 2020 was the first year of the COVID pandemic. Stupid COVID. This year marked the first time since 2020 that there were no restrictions. Over 325,000 people crammed into the arena, making it the largest single-day sporting event by attendance, since we have heard the phrase that we've all come to hate, since the beginning of the COVID pandemic. For second place finisher, Pato Award. Yeah, I'm getting tired of talking about COVID. Can you tell?
You're not alone.
For second place finisher, Pato Award. Yeah, he missed out on his first Indy 500 win, but for his runner-up result, not a bad day. He and his team pocketed a cool $1 million in winning. Overall, the 33-car field averaged a payout of $485,000. Not too shabby. Not too bad for 3 hours of work, give or take, on Sunday afternoon. Actually, it was just shy of, it was like 2 hours, 51 minutes long. But still, not a bad payday. Of course, then there is fan favorite Tony Kanaan. Now, Tony Kanaan has spent the past couple of years kind of beginning his step back from IndyCar racing. He's no longer full-time. He's only racing part-time. He's 47 years old, but he was buoyed by last Sunday's third-place finish. Says he wants one more shot at this. One more run in the famed race, but he knows it's not up to him. He did say with a little bit of attitude, quote, "It's so lame that people think we're old at 47. We can't drive anymore. It's crap. So, yeah, I'm ready to do it again." He's going to need to find a sponsor, and he's going to need to find a team. The team situation might not be as big of a hurdle as Tony Kanaan might have initially thought.
No.
Because his current team owner, Chip Ganassi, seemed quite open to the idea, even it is a year away from happening. Ganassi said, quote, "In his retirement, we've made him the vice president of entertainment, and he can drive too. Yeah, he can still win this race. You saw that today with his performance. Kanaan is a veteran. He's a wily veteran. He knows his way around this place, no question. So we're not throwing him out yet."
If he would have been able to pick traffic a little bit quicker than he did,
he might have grabbed a second.
yeah.
Might have
I'm
grabbed
not
a
going to
second.
say it wouldn't out of the question.
No, I agree. As for Ericsson is not the first driver ever with Formula One experience to claim an Indy 500 win. He is the latest. And it grabbed the attention of some of the Formula One racers who were watching the Indy 500 after the Monaco Grand Prix. One of them, defending Formula One champion Max Verstappen, was asked the obvious question: would he be interested in trying to run the Indy 500? And this is one of those situations that we have come across here in recent years. We noted it last year with both Romain Grosjean and, quite frankly, Jimmy Johnson. We criticized Jimmy Johnson because the oval track races that IndyCar runs on are oval track races that at least in 2021, are oval track courses that Jimmy Johnson's very familiar with because of his time in NASCAR. This year they add Iowa. Well, Jimmy's run Richmond, and that's what Iowa's based on. So, again, what's your excuse? Romain Grosjean kind of gave him a pass because, again, he's coming over from F1. He's still trying to get his feet wet in the IndyCar series. But even he said, you know what? To heck with this. And late last year, he ran the last oval track race of the 2021 season.
Gateway.
Launching him into this year.
Yep.
So I'm still trying to figure out whether this is a warranted fear or if this is something about how oval tracks have built up an odd reputation amongst the Formula One drivers for being just like the ultimately most dangerous thing on the planet.
It's a head scratcher to me because say hypothetically 2024 FIA and Formula One says, hey, we're going to add a fourth U.S. race. We're going back to Indianapolis.
And don't forget that for a while, the Indy 500 was considered a sanctioned Formula One points race. For several years, I want to say 60s into the 70s, maybe?
I'm beginning to wonder, is it the thought of them running a sustained 200 plus? Because I'm pretty sure there's a few F1 courses where they touch 200 or 205 on a long straightaway.
Baku, Azerbaijan comes to mind.
Baku.
Miami.
Miami. I think I saw 195 at Miami. I'm pretty sure they hit it at Spain or really, really, really close.
Get really close to it, if you set yourself up right, you go through a little snake section at Spa-Francorchamps right after you get through kind of an almost hairpin turn one, and you go through that little quick left-right up the hill. And if you hit that perfectly, you really don't have to let off in a Formula One car, which means that by the time you're up near the top of the hill, you're touching close to 200 there too.
Yeah, and you're gonna hit it at Las Vegas next year.
Oh gosh, yeah, we've seen that track layout already.
You're gonna hit it at Las Vegas. So if you can hit it in an F1 car, what's scares you from doing it in an Indy car? When it's, in my personal opinion, virtually the same car.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Virtually the same car.
I do believe what we know of the Formula One versus the IndyCar is the fact that the Formula One car actually has more downforce than the IndyCar does.
I would guarantee you, I could almost guarantee you right now, the non-avid motorsports fan, let's label it that way, because people like yourself, myself and yourself, that knows the characteristics to look for in an F1 car versus an Indy car.
Right.
If you took two cars and put them side by side and put them in Ferrari red or the silver arrows, or you put them both in Red Bull livery, let me say it that way.
If you gave them both the same look, didn't matter what team in IndyCar or in Formula One, if you gave both cars the same look,
the non-avid fan would not be able to tell it apart.
I think you're probably right. I think you are.
The non-avid fan would not be able to tell.
You'd be guessing, okay, that one's the F1 car? Nope, that one's the Indy car.
That's the Indy car. How do you know? Look at the wing.
The rear wing, most specifically.
The rear wing specifically, yes.
Yeah. But here's what Max Verstappen said. He said, quote, "I have no desire to chase the Triple Crown." That Triple Crown that he's talking about is Monaco, Le Mans, IndyCar. He added, "I appreciate what they do, IndyCar drivers. It's insane, these drivers. I have a lot of respect for what they achieve there, but for me, especially not being in F1 for long, I don't need to risk my life there and potentially injure myself. It's not worth it anymore. Let's say it like that. You've got every chance in the world every time you go out and strap yourself into your F1 car to injure yourself in your Formula One car. Just because you're not running for points or the title in IndyCar, it's not worth trying the Indy 500? Is that the way that I'm reading that?
Yeah, but the wording, I don't need to risk my life there. And Max, last I checked, which was less than 60 seconds ago, every time you sit down into that respective seat, whether it's in your F1 car, if I sit in a dirt late model, or if Steve West sits in a cup car, when you put the 5-point harness over your shoulder, you latch that lap belt, you cinch the helmet strap, whether you think that it is or not, no matter what you're sitting in, you are putting your life on the line and in danger and at risk, because anything can happen to anybody in any given car.
Yeah.
See James Hinchcliffe that nearly died when he bled out when he had the steering rod go through his leg.
Oh, yeah. And that was in a practice session.
See Romain Grosjean at Abu Dhabi last year.
2 years.
2 years ago, excuse me. That's right, 2 years. It seemed like last year.
Look at Kevin Magnussen last week in Monaco. If he had hit in just about a foot different up towards the driver cockpit, we don't know what might have happened.
True.
And then, of course, unfortunately, you have Adam Petty, Kenny Irwin, Dale Earnhardt,
Blaze Alexander, Tony Roper. I could go on for a long
Jules
time.
Bianchi,
Dan
Weldon.
Yeah, Dan Weldon. I mean, Dan Weldon flew probably 400 yards in less than 3 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the list is very long of people who have either been so severely injured or they've died because of crashes that they've suffered.
Simply,
and it doesn't matter what the series is.
I'll say this, and in 9:13 a.m. on June the 4th, 2022, on this very show, F1 is the biggest babied series I've ever seen in my life, with the exception of one driver.
Go for it.
Fernando Alonso.
I would agree with that.
Because he got out there and he done it and he went for it.
And I think to a certain, I can't say this for certain because I don't think he's closed the door on it yet. I think he would still be willing to come back and try the Indy 500 again if his contract, which right now his F1 contract doesn't allow that. But if his F1 contract allowed it, I think he would. Absolutely.
I redact that statement. 2 drivers, one current F1 driver, one former F1 driver.
Romain Grosjean.
Juan Montoya. There's a third one.
Yeah.
Romain Grosjean as well.
Yep. Now, here's the thing that kind of confused me, because after we've just talked about that, Max Verstappen's quotation continues. He says, maybe Le Mans. I like endurance races, so I'll probably do some, but for me, it really doesn't matter. Of course, I try to be good in Formula One. I try to do good whatever I do, but that desire of the Triple Crown or whatever, I'm not interested. Okay, well, knock yourself out. Have a ball over there. His Red Bull teammate, fresh off his Monaco win, kind of mirrored Verstappen's thoughts. Sergio Perez said, I've got no interest, to be honest. Said he likely also would not attempt Le Mans, saying that when he's done in Formula One, he's likely done racing. See, that I can respect. Max Verstappen's going to sit there and he's going to dog IndyCar, which is more similar to Formula One than literally any other series on the planet, save for the feeder series of Formula One. And then he'll turn around at the same time and say, no, I'm not going to do that, but I might do Le Mans. Whereas Max Verstappen goes, you know what? No, I've got no interest in IndyCar. In fact, I've got no interest in any other form of racing. Once I'm done in Formula One, I'm done racing. That I can respect, at least.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic and thinking for F1 drivers. You don't want to go run IndyCar because it's too fast. But you'll go run a full-body car for 24 hours? You'll fly to Daytona and go run the 24 hours of Daytona, but you won't run IndyCar?
Yeah, it's baffling.
Give me a break.
On to lighter notes. This could be a milestone weekend for hometown engine provider Chevrolet. Chevy rejoined the series as an engine provider back in 2012. Since then, they have claimed now 99 wins. So yes, in Detroit, literally their own backyard, they could get win number 100 since they came back into the sport. Nice little milestone. Seems they have more of a fighting chance as well, because the two street races so far this season have both been won by Chevrolet-powered cars. But do keep this in mind. Since Chevrolet came back into the series in 2012, Honda leads the street course matchups overall 10-7. They're up 9-7 on Chevrolet in polls. One of those races was set by points because it got rained out. So Honda does have a slight edge, but again, if you just look at this year, Chevrolet has 2 wins in 2 street course races. So they have a better than even chance in my mind to get win number 100.
Yeah, I would say better than even.
Andretti Autosport has begun setting up their future over the course of this past week. It will be without 2016 Indy 500 winner Alexander Rossi. Rossi is going to be replaced, and this is something that we pretty much figured when we got to talking about this last week. Alexander Rossi had said, and we got it on the show last week, that he had signed a contract, a multi-year contract, but due to his current contractual obligations, he could not say with who.
Right.
But he left a bunch of hints. He left a bunch of breadcrumbs that said it's not with Andretti. And sure enough, he's out. He'll be replaced by the driver that the organization has developed all the way up on the road to IndyCar ladder. He has won at every level on the way up. But when it came time to move him up to IndyCar for this year, they didn't have a seat for him. So they lent him, if you will, to A.J. Foyt on a 1-year deal. Next year, he will move from A.J. Foyt to Andretti Autosport and take over the number 27. Michael Andretti also announced that AutoNation, which has been Alexander Rossi's sponsor since he joined IndyCar, will stay at Andretti and the number 27 when Kirkwood takes it over. Rossi added this, quote, Alexander has been a great contender for us. We've enjoyed having him as part of the team for 7 seasons. He's won races, has become a leader in the team, but for all careers and all teams, they evolve. And we've mutually decided that it's time for each of us to move on. I have no doubt he'll have continued successful IndyCar career, and we wish him the best. For Kirkwood, this is, and I love A.J. Foyt. A.J. Foyt is and always will be my favorite IndyCar driver ever. Mm-hmm. I want to see A.J. Foyt racing his team be successful.
Yep.
But even with the problems that Andretti Autosport has had over the last, we'll call it 5 years.
Right.
It's still a step up.
True.
For Kyle Kirkwood, this is a step up.
But yeah, but you say that.
Of course, I say that, and Kyle Kirkwood led the practice yesterday.
Yeah. In an A.J. Foyt car.
Yeah.
And sat on the pole in the IMSA GT race that he runs for Baxter Sullivan.
All right, let me ask this. I mean, Kirkwood knows he's on a 1-year deal. He doesn't really know his future. Now, all of a sudden, I'll put you in Kirkwood's shoes.
Yeah.
You now know where you're going to be next year, and you're going to be back at the team that has nurtured you since beginning your, again, road to IndyCar career.
Yeah.
Settle your mind to the point where all of a sudden you just go, you know what? Heck with it. And you let it all hang out?
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to now.
I mean, you might say, well, why didn't you let it all hang out earlier? But you got to remember, these are, you know, we're still talking about human beings here. And if you're worried about your future, that's got to have an effect on your psyche even while you're behind the wheel.
But then again, you're driving with that frame of mind of, hey, I've got to be consistent, get these solid finishes. Maybe they'll re-up me. Maybe they'll do this. Maybe this will happen. You've got that what if, or maybe this, or maybe that frame of mind in your mind. But
so without a contract for next year, you have doubts. You have concerns. How about that?
Yeah.
Not necessarily doubts. You have concerns.
You have concerns, but you're trying to be consistent to address those concerns.
Okay. With the contract dealt with, what does that do to your psyche?
It makes me breathe easy.
And now all of a sudden, boom.
Like, hey, let's just one of those, hey, to heck with it, let's go.
Okay. Now let's put you in Alexander Rossi's shoes. We reported it last week on the show. He has signed a contract for 2023 and beyond, but said at the time contractual restrictions kept him from making it public at this time. We know where he's going. We'll tell you where, and we'll put Matt in Alexander Rossi's shoes when we come back. You're listening to CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
Sylacauga and surrounding areas. Are you ready to level up? Then it's time to join the VIP Club at Toyota of Sylacauga. That's right. It's time for you to be a VIP. When you join the Toyota of Sylacauga VIP Club, you will receive 7 years of oil changes, complimentary tire rotations, 3-day exchange policy, $500 off your next purchase, 10% off parts and service, and much, much more. What's that? You want to know how much it costs to join our VIP Club? Absolutely zero. That's right. You get all of these amazing benefits at no cost to you. That's $3,495 in benefits. And don't forget about Toyota of Sylacauga's team of credit specialists here to get you approved, because 100% credit approval is our #1 goal. So if you are ready to level up, come join the VIP Club at Toyota of Sylacauga for $3,495 in benefits at no cost to you. Remember, you're not just a number. You are part of the family at Toyota of Sylacauga, 39765 Highway 280, toyotaofsylacauga.com. We're worth the drive, and we will prove it. With approved credit, see dealer for details.
Rack and Roll Billiards and Sports Bar, located in historic downtown Anniston, features 29 TVs, 6 professional billiard tables, dartboards, 16 beers on tap, an extensive liquor selection, and a full menu. Rack and Roll Billiards is open 7 days a week, and make sure you ask about their daily events and their lunch and drink specials. Check out Rack and Roll Billiards on the web and save time by ordering online at rackandrollbilliards.com. in downtown Anniston.
The NASCAR Cup Series
Wheel-to-wheel, Chastain and Kyle Busch at the line, a dead heat.
makes its long-awaited debut
Trouble, turn number 4. Kyle Larson hard into the outside wall.
at Gateway.
Leading the field, this time the checkered flag is in the air, and Ryan Blaney has won.
It's the Enjoy Illinois 300, presented by TicketSmarter.
Brought to you locally by Afina's Tuscan Grill. Dallas.
All right, so we're going to put you in Alexander Rossi's shoes, just like we put you a moment ago in Kyle Kirkwood's shoes. As mentioned, Rossi said he had signed a contract for 2023 and beyond. He couldn't say who it was with at the time last week. Well, the day after Andretti Autosport announced Kirkwood would take the car in 2023, it wasn't Rossi who said it. It was the team that we figured he was going to go to, Aero McLaren Racing SP, that announced what we all thought, again, Rossi was going to join them next year. In a statement announcing the move, Rossi was quoted as saying this, quote, "The time has come for a new challenge with the team that is growing in the sport. I look forward to contributing to the development of Aero McLaren SP and helping them reach the top. The team is planning next year to be a 3-car operation." Now, earlier this year, just within the past, I think, month, they announced the signing of Pato O'Ward.
Yeah.
The third car we don't really know at this time. This year, the 2 cars are Pato O'Ward, and the other one's driven by Felix Rosenqvist, but Rosenqvist is in the final year of his deal. Right now, we don't know what the team might be planning for the number 7, whether it's Rosenqvist, Rossi moves into that car, or whether they choose another driver. We don't know any of that right now. But we mentioned for the psyche of Kyle Kirkwood what having a contract for next year and knowing where he's going to be and what he's going to be doing next year has done. It takes that aspect off of his mind.
Right.
For Rossi, he knew before the Indy 500, my schedule's set. We saw him do a top 10 finish at Indy 500.
Uh-huh.
Is part of that because he now knows where he's going to be next year?
Yes. I'm pretty all but sure, yes.
On top of that, what does this do within the hallways of Andretti Autosport? Because that means Rossi is now a dead duck. He's a lame duck. What does this do for Andretti and for Rossi still being in the halls of Andretti Autosport for the remainder of this year?
Well, the first question you got on your mind is this: are my cars going to go to junk now? Am I going to still get the same stuff that Romain Grosjean's getting, the same stuff that Devin DeFrancesco's getting?
Yeah.
I mean, am I still going to get the same stuff? That's question number one.
Sure.
2, is my team going to execute like they need to execute for me if I'm giving my all? Because they know, you see where I'm going with
I do.
You got that question in the back of your mind.
Are they preparing for next year when Kyle Kirkwood comes in, or are
Right.
they concentrating on giving me the best that they've got for the remainder of this year?
That's the exact analogy I was about to say. Are they preparing for Detroit tomorrow, or are they preparing for Barber next May?
Mm-hmm. Then you get to next year, still in Alexander Rossi's shoes,
Yeah.
and you take over the car at Arrow McLaren Racing SP. And this this is going to sound kind of petty, but at the same point in time, you've been with this team for 7 years. Michael Andretti admitted it. He's been with us for 7 years. He's done a great job. He's been a leader on this team. Do you look at the Andretti cars and automatically paint a little bullseye target on them as, I need to pass that car at all costs because I need to prove to them what they are now missing?
That and then some.
But how do you balance that to make sure that it doesn't become a detriment to what you are trying to do for Arrow McLaren Racing SP and what you're trying to do as far as winning a title, which he said that was his main goal?
It can be tricky because you've got that sense of vindication that you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, you've got that sense of, I've got to do my job that you have to have. There's a want to have this and a have to have that. It can be a tough balancing act sometimes.
Because, in just trying to kind of put myself in that same situation, it doesn't matter whether it's motorsports or baseball or football. I always go back, and this is not necessarily for kids, parents, so, just to kind of remind you, I go back to the movie Major League. Just before Charlie Sheen's character, Wild Thing, is understood that he needs to have glasses. And he's about to be sent down to the minors to try and work out his problems. He throws a conniption fit of, I'm going to catch on with another team, and every time I face you, I'm going to shove it up you know where. Edit. I got to wonder if he looks at that or if he goes, you know what? I got traded to a better team, quote unquote, traded to a better team. I don't need to prove to them or myself anything. All I got to do is go out on the track and do what I know how to do.
Right.
But I still think that there is some aspect of him that wants him to say, I could have done this with your team.
Yeah. Very well could have. Easily could have.
We'll find out. Over at Juncos Hollinger Racing, they're going to put Santino Ferrucci in the racer this weekend in place of Callum Ilott. Ilott set to miss this weekend at least, due to a crash he suffered on lap 68 of the Indy 500. In that crash, he broke his right hand. He was wearing a brace on it when he was released from the infield care center last weekend, and when Wednesday came, IndyCar officials checked him out. They would not clear him. So Ferrucci, who has, for the most part, turned to NASCAR over the past year and a half, was tabbed due to his 10th place result in the Indy 500. He raced part-time for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing last year in IndyCar, so he's still got his feet kind of wet, still familiar with the series. This year, still lacking a full-time ride, he was available to take this particular ride for this weekend in Detroit and said this, quote, although I'm happy to be back in the car, it's unfortunate for Callum. Hope his hand heals really quickly and he's back on track soon, and added that he would help the team in any way he could. For Ferrucci, that statement right there and his willingness to do this, he is, and quite frankly, I am as well, hoping that this opens up some eyes. because I think Santino Ferrucci is a very talented driver who is just, he's missing that opportunity that he needs.
Deservedly so. He just needs that one break to open that door somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Here's your chance to
Because-
prove yourself in a car that. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean any disrespect to Juncos Hollinger Racing, but you're talking about a car, a team in a car that's part-time this year. Nobody's really expecting all that much from them.
Right.
If he can go out and he can back up an Indy 500 top 10, granted in another team's car, with a really good performance here, I think it does go a long way towards opening those eyes that he needs to open.
Well, like we just said, there's a third seat that's in limbo at McLaren.
Shoo, you want to talk about going from nothing into almost everything.
CC Taylor Kyle.
There you go. As for the team that Kyle Kirkwood is set to leave to move to Andretti Autosport, AJ Foyt Racing, it's been kind of an up and down week. Here's your up. Dalton Kellett and Foyt banding together to raise over $11,000 for the families of the victims of the Uvalde, Texas school shooting. Kellett was born and raised in Canada, but he was also in a family that lived and breathed in the outdoors, and he knows firearms quite well. In looking at the tragedy in Foyt's home state of Texas, Kellett vowed to help out. He said he would donate every dollar spent at his online store from Saturday through Tuesday of this past week to those families. He announced the move the weekend of the Indy 500. So get this. He drives in the race and then goes from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway straight to the shop, helps pack, label, and ship out all the orders that came in, helped through Tuesday to make it work. That alone raised almost $4,000. His sponsor, K-Line Insulators, and then AJ Foyt, the company, the racing team, agreed to match the totals. So $11,400 went to the Uvalde community. Very cool move.
Yeah.
Then you get the downside. Kellett's having to serve a grid penalty due to making an engine change on the number 4 car just before last weekend's Indy 500. Well, why didn't the grid penalty come at the Indy 500? Well, it's weird. IndyCar's got an odd set of rules. The penalty for the unapproved change of power plants, 6 places from where he will qualify. For those that didn't know, the rule reads this, quote, once an Indianapolis 500 engine is fitted to a car, removal of the engine prior to the Indianapolis 500 racer is an unapproved engine changeout unless it is for repair. In other words, you repair it, you put it right back in. The rules clarify the penalty does not get applied to the Indy 500, but for the following race.
Okay.
It's an odd little note, but it's a significant note.
No joke.
So I'm trying to figure out the reasoning for it.
So
because it's not the same car you qualified with. Even if, I don't care if you qualify 33rd or on the pole, the car that you qualified with is no longer the car that you will race with because you changed the engine.
Oh, boy. Boy. So let's say hypothetically, Dalton Kellett, keyword hypothetically, goes out, qualifies on the pole at Detroit.
Could happen.
He's out of luck automatically.
Sure. Start 7th.
Got to go start 7th.
Yeah. You got to lose 6 places from wherever you qualify. And by the way, this is cumulative. He will have to lose 6 places, period. So if he doesn't, let's say, it's what, 27, 26? 26,
27, something like that.
Okay, let's say it's 26 starters. Let's say he qualifies 23rd. He only loses 3 places, which means the next race he loses the other 3 places, or he continues to lose places until he loses all 6.
That is dumb.
It's such an odd situation. Either way, Kellett qualified 29th for the Indy 500. He finished 2 laps down in 27th. Qualifying for this weekend's race will start about an hour and a half after our show is over, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time.
Hey, Dalton, play it smart. Qualify 27th every single race.
What are they going to do?
What are you going to do? Start 27th every race?
There you go. As for the future of IndyCar, well, they already do race in Canada. Otherwise, they haven't ventured outside of North America since they ran in Sao Paulo, Brazil back in 2013. There was supposed to be a return to Brazil in 2015, but politics in that South American country got in the way. Politics always gets in the way, doesn't it? According to Racer.com, that may change, but not in Brazil. Courtesy of Argentina, says the website. No one from IndyCar is talking, duh. But Racer.com states negotiations have begun with officials at the Autodromo Termas de Rio Hondo. It's a 3-mile-long road course in the city of the same name, Termas de Rio Hondo. It's in the northern province of Santiago. The course is reported to be an FIA Grade 2 facility, which also hosts an annual MotoGP event.
Confirmed. It is a Grade 2.
To return to the international racing in 2023 seems almost out of the question, but IndyCar officials have been talking since Penske Entertainment bought the series about returning to at least a non-points race held outside of North America, probably before the actual points season would begin. So think, I don't know, January, maybe early February, before things began, say late March, early April, points-wise up here. But as for a timetable when that race might happen, nothing is certain. One of the issues, kind of like what we were talking about in Formula One, the funding to help transportation for cars, equipment, and personnel. We'll have to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Then we get to NASCAR.
Uh-huh.
As we look back, let's start off with the third crown jewel race of the week. And let's look at Chris Buescher.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Buescher barrel rolling. One of the few times that we've seen that this year, especially at a track like a Charlotte.
Yeah, it's rare you see it there.
They took their time, and you and I were kind of texting back and forth. They took their time about getting the car flipped back over before they got Buescher out of the car. Buescher got out of the car under his own power. He's fine, just to let you know.
I had a bird's eye view of that one, no pun intended.
Yeah. In looking at the situation, it did seem like it took them an extra long time. I understand they want to be careful. If he's injured, they don't want to slam the car down and create a worse situation, whatever injury he might have had. He didn't. But at the same time, it did seem like it took an abnormally long period of time.
Here's what I saw him do, and I don't know if television depicted this or not. And I've never seen this, and maybe one of the main morning show guys here at the flagship can elaborate on this more, because he's very, 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 very sharp and very keen in the safety aspect of the sport, because he was the High Banks safety team director.
Sure.
They took the wrecker, and instead of taking the wrecker and extending the boom out and retracting it in to roll the car over, they hooked the strap to the car and was extending the boom and rolling the car over in a backwards direction.
Kind of pushing it away from the tow vehicle.
Pushing it away from the vehicle.
Right.
Therefore, rolling Buescher's side of the window over like this instead of over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going, oh. And AMR didn't seem like they was in a hurry, which kind of left me at a head scratcher there. I'm thinking, what if there's fluid leaking out of the car? Flammable fluid, hint fuel, oil.
Yeah.
Even though there are check valves on stuff that prevent that, you could have a little small leak come from somewhere, and it don't take much.
Yeah, happens.
So, and then another thing of that, when they got the car on the rollback and went away, there was a decent-sized little pile of speedy dry that got left right there on the asphalt part of the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we leaving debris out there?
Anybody going to take care of that?
Anybody gonna pick it up?
Sweep it away,
Anybody
blow it away.
Pick it away, blow it away.
I mean, that's what we've got all those air dryers for.
Since we want to throw cautions for paint chips on the racetrack now.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't technically on the racing surface. It was kind of on the infield between the front stretch and pit road. But at the same point in time, you're talking about cars that if they lose control, they're hoping they can go through that area.
It was less than 20 feet from the groove.
There you go.
Less than 20 feet.
So, again, this situation with caution flags and what the officials are doing in NASCAR this year is kind of baffling. Still, you and I haven't gotten a handle on it. I don't know whether the people that are in charge of hitting the little button that turns the caution lights on have gotten a handle on it either. I'm not sure they have their own handle on it, and they're the ones pressing the button calling for the caution flag.
Right here before we have to go to break, to coin the phrase that was brought to light by the great Matt Coulter that Steve and I just took and taken, and we're all three running with it, and now others are running with it as well. Grady,
mm-hmm.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And on that note, we'll take a break and finish up the show right after this on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
The grad.
Yeah, final segment of this weekend show. And after talking about Chris Buescher and our still mass confusion over how NASCAR's calling caution flags during the Cup Series this year, let's get to some good news. NASCAR announced on Tuesday of this week the championship weekend will remain in Phoenix for another year. I thought that no disrespect to Phoenix or to Arizona for that matter. I think Phoenix is a great track, and I think Arizona does a great job of hosting the championship weekend.
Sure.
Just as much as Miami did when we were down there for the final one that was held at Homestead Miami in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they were going to start moving this thing around to a bunch of different tracks.
I kind of did too.
Anyway, the Arizona track has the 2023 title weekend. Fourth consecutive year they will host it. On the same day, Phoenix announced that this year's Cup Championship race is a sellout as far as the grandstands are concerned. And if you want to, you can be put on a wait list for a spot up on Rattlesnake Hill. That's the hill that overlooks the first and second turns of the track. Yeah, they're on a wait list for that. Phoenix officials added they finally put the wraps on their $178 million renovation project that improved the fan experience, which also included a reconfiguration of the track layout. That was the first thing that was done before the 2020 title weekend. The track's set to host the 2023 title race the weekend of November 3rd through the 5th. Tickets will go on sale at a later date. And during that weekend, they will crown title winners in the ARCA Menards West Series, Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series, just like the track will do this year. Also on a good news note, this weekend's race at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway, track officials have to be thrilled by this. Tomorrow's first ever Cup race at the track is a sellout. All 57,000 grandstand seats, the 1,200 camping spots, they're spoken for, as are the give or take 24 suites. This marks the track's first ever sellout event in track history.
I could have swore an IndyCar race was sold out there at one point.
According to this and everything that I can find, this is the first ever sellout for them.
Crazy.
Period.
Crazy.
But congratulations to them.
Well,
Last
good for them, for
weekend,
sure.
Coca-Cola 600, sellout. Daytona 500 this year, sellout. Talladega earlier this year, sellout. For those of you that said NASCAR was dead,
Charlotte, sellout. Yeah.
ain't dead yet, boys and girls. It ain't what it was. Okay, yeah, we can admit that. But you know what? If you want to say that NASCAR died when Dale Earnhardt died, go back 21 years and tell me something that hasn't changed in 21 years.
Yeah.
Everything has changed in 21 years.
Uh-huh.
Got a couple of drivers pulling double duty this weekend. The more difficult one is AJ Allmendinger. Allmendinger's creating a little bit of a travel nightmare because he's running the Cup Series tomorrow. Again, St. Louis market. He's also running for points in the Xfinity Series. And oh, by the way, if you forgot the schedule, they're running in Portland, Oregon. But he's also running for points in the Xfinity Series. So because he's running for points there, he needs to concentrate on that. So Ben Rhodes, nice little opportunity for Ben, by the way, who is at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway for the Truck Series later today. He's going to jump in the car later today. He will practice and qualify the Cup car, number 16. While qualification won't count, obviously, because he will have to move to the back because of a change of driver, the team still gets to select their pit stall based upon the qualification. That does not change. So that's why they still qualify the car.
There's an update to this right here. He's already crashed the car yesterday.
Way to go, Ben.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. They were going to go to a backup
I
car
don't
anyway.
think they're even going to qualify. No, they're repairing the car.
Oh, are they? Okay.
I don't think they're going to qualify.
Well, I mean, at this point in time, why not?
What good is it going to do?
Yeah, really. It's not going to do Ben any good. Driver who will also be pulling double duty this weekend is a driver who was not anticipating it as of last weekend. It is Truck Series regular Zane Smith. Zane Smith set to get his first Cup Series start in the number 17. That's the car normally driven by Chris Buescher. Now, we told you after the rollover situation last week at Charlotte, he was uninjured.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not due to injury that Chris Buescher is missing this weekend, but this is a week Chris Buescher would rather forget. You got the barrel roll at the Coca-Cola 600, and then the reason why he's missing this weekend's race, a positive diagnosis for COVID-19.
Why are we still having athletes miss events because of a head cold?
I don't know. Either way, it'll force him out of the car. Zane Smith gets his first Cup Series start in history, and this could be an interesting tryout for him. It's only expected to be a 1 week miss. Buescher should be back next weekend at Sonoma. Zane Smith moves over to the Ford driver development program situation here.
And has now elevated himself into the top Ford prospect.
He and Ryan Prix. And if you think about some of the things that are coming available, think number 10 car at Stewart-Haas Racing. Should Zane Smith perform well, I'm not going to say win. Well, top 10? I'll even go top 15.
Top 15. Top 15 well performance.
Does this make some people that might have been thinking Ryan Prix beforehand all of a sudden go, well, wait a minute, we got this kid Zane Smith over here. Do we need to talk about him?
That's a good one.
That's that opening up the eyeballs thing that we're talking about with Santino Ferrucci just last segment.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Time will tell. Again, no pressure, Zane. Got to perform tomorrow.
Yeah. A little bit.
I found this one interesting, too. Rick Hendrick continuing to set things up in his organization, both in motorsports and for his dealership network. Remember, his dealership network is the largest in the United States. All of this seems to be in preparation, kind of for him, kind of stepping away from the day-to-day activities within his own motorsports operation. While his name will remain on the dealerships, his name will remain on the race team, Rick probably starting to get ready to take some time away for himself. Among the moves, Hendrick Motorsports President and Chief Operating Officer Marshall Colson is now the president of Hendrick Companies. He oversees both the race team and the Hendrick Automotive Group. While Jeff Gordon remains VP of Hendrick Motorsports, you can expect him to take on a bit of a bigger role.
Yeah, I think Jeff's got the keys to the building already.
I believe you are correct. We'll get back to that when we get into Xfinity Series news. But first this, Petty GMS Racing. They have yet to make up their minds on who's going to drive the number 43 in 2023, but according to the driver of it this year, Eric Jones, talks have begun about him returning. He adds he's very happy running for Petty GMS Racing and said this, quote, I mean, it's, end of May, almost June, so you can tell when this interview was held. I mean, by late July, August, I'd like to have something going already for next year. You get past that, it kind of gets to be a burden for both ends, you know? Burden for me, burden for the team. So if I can get something done by then, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. Eric Jones... He hasn't, what's the best word to describe this? He hasn't blown anybody's shirt off by his performance this year, but by the same token, what I'm looking at, I consistently see him top 15, top 20. And for Petty GMS Racing, which, got to remember, the GMS part was just added for this year, it's an improvement over what we have seen.
Oh, substantially. But you've got to look at it this way, barring if he gets tied up in an accident that's not of his doing or a mechanical issue, he's been higher than top 15.
Mm-hmm.
Way higher.
He's been in contention for a couple of wins.
Yeah. See, Talladega.
Yeah.
Talladega was his, in my opinion.
How much of that is Eric Jones and how much of that is just dumb luck or something that happened maybe on pit road?
I'm going to say 30-70.
Okay.
I'm going to say 30-70.
So you're going to lay this quite a bit on Eric Jones's lap. Okay.
Yeah, I would say that. Because I'm going to tell you now, if from a free agent standpoint, if I'm starting a Cup team in 2023, and it's going to have this CRN white diamond logo on the hood, first person I'm calling is Eric Jones.
There you go. That says a lot. I mean, you think about some of the free agents that are pending.
Yeah.
That says a lot. So for Eric Jones to say talks have begun, for you, that's a good sign.
I think he's safe.
So between Eric Jones and Ty Dillon, do they have a good base over there at Petty GMS Racing?
Well, considering Ty Dillon was basically out of the sport for a year and he's evolving himself back up, I would say the base is decent.
Solid, if unspectacular?
Yeah. It's decent.
Okay. To the Xfinity Series, Alpha Prime Racing, happy to announce yet another new partner and yet another cryptocurrency company. This is Clear Cryptos, but this is one that wants to bring clarity, accountability, and wide success to the cryptocurrency market. So they work not necessarily with people who want to buy into the crypto market. They work with tech companies, the government, and law enforcement to try and make sure that everything is done on the up and up. They debut as a primary sponsor today for Andy Lally's Xfinity car out in Portland. For the remainder of this year, they're going to be an associate sponsor at the very least, with the possibility of getting more races as primary sponsor on that number 44 Camaro. Probably with Lally behind the wheel, but I can't guarantee that. RSS Racing has added something that we don't hear a whole lot about anymore in NASCAR. We used to hear about it all the time.
He will start 15th in that car today.
Gotcha. Road Course Ringer. Road Course Ringer this time is a guy by the name of Darren Dilly. Who? Yeah, Darren Dilly. He's going to drive the number 38 Mustang. He's an SCCA regular, drives for his family operation called Cheap Fast Racing, which is overseen by his father, Bert Dilly. As for his regular job, Darren Dilly's an elementary school phys ed teacher. His marketing director made the connection when his marketing director for Darren Dilly saw an RSS Racing Facebook post that was seeking drivers who were familiar with the Portland course. I think initially they just wanted to get the driver to give them tips, and apparently got impressed so much by Darren that they're going to pull an SCCA driver up Trans Am 2 division, by the way,
Hey, Darren.
to run in the Cup Series or
Darren.
Xfinity Series.
Darren, you want to drive? Sure.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
As you say, have fire suit will travel.
Bingo.
And we've been calling, this goes back to the Hendrick Motorsports situation. And this was eye-opening to me even more so than all of the moves that they made in the front office, which we only detailed really one of them. We've been calling Junior Motorsports, though, for all intents and purposes, the Hendrick Motorsports Xfinity Series team. And that probably still is, to a large extent, true. But for the first time since 2009, Hendrick Motorsports is set to field an Xfinity Series car of their own. For 3 races later this year, the team is going to put their Cup Series drivers, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, and William Byron, in for 1 race each. They're going to use the number 17. The car will be sponsored by HendrickCars.com. As we mentioned, break out the number 17. The first time Hendrick Motorsports used that, you got to go back to between 1987 and 1990 when Darrell Waltrip used the number. He won a Daytona 500 in it. Then they broke it back out for what is now the Camping World Truck Series when Ricky Hendrick started running it back in 2001. By the way, the paint scheme, HendrickCars.com, same sponsor that Ricky Hendrick had back then. The paint scheme for this truck this car will mirror the look of that truck. Kevin Meendering will be the crew chief for that ride. Hendrick is not unfamiliar with running in the Xfinity Series. And they're not unfamiliar with winning in it either. They've got 26 wins in what is the secondary series. But the most recent one was the last race that they ran. Season opener, Daytona, 2009, driving the number 80. It was run by a guy who had just started his own Stewart-Haas racing team, Tony Stewart.
Sir Anthony Stewart.
That was the last entry for Hendrick in the secondary series, what we now call the Xfinity Series, until this year. Are they going to go back to racing full-time in the Xfinity?
I don't know.
I've always been kind of baffled as to why they stopped.
Yeah, it's a question mark.
Time will tell. This week is the first week of the Triple Truck Challenge. It's got the same basic rules as the Xfinity Series Dash for Cash. Winner of today's race, WWT Raceway at Gateway, will get a $50,000 bonus. Should a driver win 2 of the 3 races, they will get a $150,000 bonus. And should, not likely, that driver sweep all 3 races, that bonus becomes $500,000.
Huh.
The 3 races are, as noted, today. And then the second race will be at Nashville Superspeedway, and then it'll close out later this year at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The bonus structure created back in 2019. Last year, the trio to claim bonuses, John Hunter Nemechek, Todd Gilliland, Sheldon Creed. And then Spire Motorsports, they've had pretty good luck, at least in their part-time truck operation this season. They're going to try it later today. In the number 7 Chevrolet Silverado, they have put a 19-year-old kid by the name of Rajah Caruth. We've been paying attention. He's an ARCA Menard Series points leader. He's also a member of NASCAR's Drive for Diversity program, and he brings 3 top 5 and 4 top 10 results with him from his first 5 races in the ARCA Menard Series, with a couple of Xfinity Series starts. This will be, though, his debut in the Truck Series.
He starts inside the top 10. He'll be a legitimate threat.
He's
not for a win, but I'm gonna say a legitimate.
How familiar do you think he is with this track?
He's run it a few times in ARCA.
Okay, so this is a pretty good move on the part of Spire to put a kid.
Smart move.
I mean, yeah, he's a kid, 19 years old. We get that, but you put somebody who's got experience with some races out there, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yep.
We're going to get back to this next week. I'm not going to deal with that right now.
Yeah, I don't think we want to close the show with that.
Yeah,
one.
We're going to get to this actual bit of news here before we wrap things up. And we're talking about Road America's president, Mike Kircher. He spoke to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel about the future of his road course and their contract with NASCAR, which, by the way, they're in their final year of. This year, when the Cup Series visits, only their second trip there. Xfinity Series has been going to Wisconsin since 2010. But again, no contract for anything within NASCAR beyond this season. Kircher told the newspaper in response to a question about Chicagoland Speedway's likely return next year and how it probably will take the spot of where Road America is right now. He responded, quote, "Yeah, I mean, we'd like to think it's a match made in heaven here at Road America. But we've always said it's got to make business sense. We have an agreement through this year. We've had some initial talks, but nothing's firmed up at this point. At this point, we're concentrating, just as we did last year, on delivering a first-class experience at a first-class venue. Would July 3rd or 4th be our first options? If you're a promoter, that's an uphill battle. but I feel like we're collaborating with NASCAR to start this tradition at the National Park of Speed, his words, not ours, and have camping in Americana and families all celebrating the 4th. It makes a hell of a lot of sense to do it here. You were there last year. You saw an IndyCar race. No, you went to Mid-Ohio.
Mid-Ohio, yeah.
We haven't been to Road America yet. It is it's a place I'd like to go. I've heard a lot of good things about Road America.
It's been on my radar.
Yeah. So I'd like to see them continue.
For sure.
And with NASCAR's seeming new emphasis on road course racing, why wouldn't you continue to go there?
Very true.
Now, could they find themselves in a different place on the schedule? Yeah, certainly that's a possibility.
No doubt.
No after the show this week. We'll come back next week. We'll do it all again. Touch on some of the things that we missed.
Uh-huh.
And who knows what else we'll get ourselves into, but we'll certainly be able to review this weekend.
Absolutely.
Y'all enjoy the racing, and we'll talk to you again next week right here on the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM and